Good morning, welcome back to another one of Nathan Bell's commentary videos. Had a little bit of time off and he's back ready and raring to go. And today Nate wants to talk to you about the time he spent with the Renew Newcastle initiative.
Yeah, well, Renew Newcastle was an arts organisation funded by Newcastle Council. Renew Newcastle gave unused office spaces and shop spaces to artists at a discount rate so that they could set up their creative businesses. I knew about Renew Newcastle when it started. I think it was like 15, nearly 20 years ago, and I always thought it was a fantastic initiative, and for many years I thought I'd love to be involved in Renew Newcastle because I've always wanted to run a creative business. So I remember the first Renew Newcastle business run by the founder, Mark. I think his name was Mark. And the first business was Vox Cyclops. It was a record store. So I moved into Newcastle about 10 years ago wanting to establish myself as an artist. And I started going around the city filming a documentary on buskers, and then I met one of the buskers who I interviewed for my documentary, offered to help me with the documentary after I interviewed him. So we teamed up and he started helping me collect interviews with buskers around the city and introduced me to a few more of the buskers he knew, and I also filmed interviews with people out enjoying the nightlife. I wanted to film a pilot series for a reality TV show on busking, and then I was going to try and pitch it to some of the television networks to see if we could film a reality TV show about busking in Newcastle. So anyway, we were working together on the documentary, and I said to him, "Have you heard of Renew Newcastle?" He said no. I explained to him what Renew Newcastle was, and I said we should see if there's a round of applications open for a Renew Newcastle space. And so we looked it up online, and there was a round of applications open for a Renew Newcastle space. So we looked at the forms and we started filling out the forms, and we applied and we submitted the forms and submitted them. They were asking for examples of our artistic work, so me and him submitted different examples of different work we had done, different media work and music work we had done over the years. He had his own collection of media work, and so did I. And then about a month later, we received a call and we were invited in to meet the head of Renew Newcastle. So we went to that meeting and we spoke to him. His name was Chris. He's a great bloke. And we talked to Chris at length for a while about what we wanted to do. Told him we wanted to run a creative studio and record bands and do media projects, and that we were also doing a documentary about the busking and the nightlife around the city. So anyway, then we went away, and then about a month later we heard from Chris again and came in for another meeting, and he approved us for the Renew Newcastle space, and we were given a space at the top floor of a building in Hunter Street Mall. The landlord was the GPT Group, big developer in town. So yeah, that was really exciting when we got approved for the space. So we moved all of his, because we were using all of my associates' equipment, we moved all the computers and the sound equipment into the space and decorated the space, and away we went with starting to try and run our creative business. So around us in the space there were several other artists operating. There was a writer who was using a small office space just off ours, and there was a photographer and songwriter who was using another little office space just off ours, and down the hall there was a fashion photographer running a fashion photography business, and down the hall also there was a band who were rehearsing in one of the spaces down the hall, and they were all Renew Newcastle members. So it was just a fantastic creative environment to be surrounded and immersed in. And downstairs was a big creative collective who I think had started as Renew Newcastle but graduated, because you graduate from Renew Newcastle and then you become a standalone business. So it was just an excellent initiative to be involved in, surrounded by arts and creativity. And we were there for about 8 months before the building sold, and everyone had to move out. And in that time, we had to take part in the This Is Not Art Festival, which was just fantastic, because I'd always been a big supporter of the This Is Not Art Festival in Newcastle as well. And I just remember absolute fond memories of being a part of This Is Not Art. On the week of This Is Not Art, we had to have a tour of our space, and about 200 people came through the space, and we filmed all the people coming through the space. We set cameras up, and I had to give a talk out the front of the building talking about what we were doing and what our project was about, to about to a couple of hundred people who were out the front listening to my talk. At the time I was a bit nervous. I'm a better public speaker now, but I think I did all right. So being a part of This Is Not Art was one of the proudest moments of my life, and being a part of Renew Newcastle was one of the proud achievements of my life. And while we were in the space, we tried to get a few clients. It didn't really work out. We had one guy who wanted us to help him run gigs, and he wanted to do 80s heavy metal cover band, and my associate was playing bass for him and recording his music, and I did some graphic design for him. I did some cover art and some posters for him, and we helped him run 2 gigs, which went all right. The gigs went all right. So yeah, and he paid us a little bit of money, so he was one of our clients. Then we had another guy come in who wanted us to edit a documentary he had filmed in Croatia. He had travelled around Europe filming gypsy music, and he wanted us to edit that footage for him. Unfortunately, he gave us the footage, and he was present, and the computer crashed when we loaded the footage, and he pulled out because he didn't trust our equipment, and he thought it was going to corrupt his data, which is fair enough. So it was just unfortunate. We didn't have the best equipment. You know, you've really got to have high standard equipment to take clients and to run a creative business. So once the computer crashed with his hard drive in it, he pulled out and we lost that client. And there was also a rapper who wanted us to record music for him. So we tried to get some clients and we tried to run our creative business, but really my focus was on doing the reality TV show pilot around busking and the nightlife in Newcastle. So we were with Renew Newcastle for about 8 months. And very involved in the arts community for about 8 months, and then the lease on the building sold. They sold the building, so everyone was asked to move on, which was very unfortunate. And anyway, I ended up having a big dispute for various reasons I won't go into with my associate, and we parted ways, and he ended up I had about 3 terabytes of footage, hundreds of interviews with buskers and people around the nightlife, enjoying the nightlife in the city, and he ended up deleting it all. I think he was frustrated and I was frustrated, but then I wasn't able to complete my documentary reality TV series because he deleted all the footage. So I was very angry and bitter about that for many years, and very disappointed about how the whole thing turned out, because I really wanted that to be a stepping stone into my career as a media producer and a creator. But you can still look at a lot of our footage that we filmed during our time with Renew Newcastle on Pump House Pro on YouTube, and you can see some of my interviews with local buskers, and you can see footage from the This Is Not Art Festival. So go to Pump House Pro on YouTube, and Pump House Pro is also on Facebook, and both those pages still exist, so you can go and you can check out all that stuff and see some of my interviews with the local buskers and the local nightlife. So go and check that out, guys, and drop a comment in the comment section about if you are aware of Renew Newcastle and what you thought of Renew Newcastle. They sadly don't operate anymore. The council canned the initiative, which I thought was very disappointing. So drop a comment about Renew Newcastle in the comment section, guys.